All right, let's jump right in. Today, we've got a story for you that comes straight from the files of consumer advocate Christopher Elliott and his team at Elliott Advocacy. It's all about what happens when loyalty gets tangled up in the fine print. And trust me, this is a fight that could easily happen to any of us. So, let's start with a question that I think will hit home for a lot of you. Can a company just change the rules after you've already paid? You know the feeling, right? You sign up for something, you pay your money, and then suddenly the deal changes. It's so frustrating, and you're left wondering, wait, can they even do that?
All right, let's get into the specifics of this case. For the customer Victoria Brewer, this wasn't some small thing. We're talking about $1,825. That's a huge chunk of change for a prepaid annual parking contract. She wasn't just buying parking, she was paying for trust.
So, to really get why this was such a big deal, you need to understand the history. Victoria had been with USAirport Parking for a solid decade, 10 years. And for all that time, they did this one thing she absolutely relied on. They kept her car keys safe in their office while she was away. For her, that wasn't just some nice little extra. It was the reason she used them. It was about peace of mind. And here's where it all starts to unravel. So she renews her contract in October, just like she's done for years, pays the full $1,800 over the phone. A few weeks go by, her son goes to use the service and, plot twist, he discovers that the key holding service, it's just gone, vanished. So what on earth happened? Well, it's a classic story, really. A bigger company, the parking spot, bought out her trusted local one. And, you guessed it, with that acquisition came a brand new policy that completely changed the service she had just paid a lot of money for.
I mean, just look at the difference here. What she thought she was paying for was that decades-long peace of mind, knowing her keys were secure in an office. What she got was a lockbox and zero warning about the change. For her, that just wasn't the same thing, not even close.
So naturally, she asks for a partial refund, $912 for the half of the year she can't use the service. And the response from a regional vice president? Basically, too bad. The company just pointed to the contract and said no. It was like they were saying, hey, we've got your money, the deal is the deal whether you like the new service or not. Okay, so when you hit a brick wall like that, it's just infuriating. Victoria's story brings up some really important questions for all of us as consumers. So let's pause the story for a minute and talk about what your rights are in a situation like this. Think of this as the consumer's playbook. All right, first things first, the big question. Can companies actually change the terms after they've already taken your money? And the frustrating answer is, sometimes yeah. Tucked away in the fine print of almost every contract is a little phrase like services subject to change. And that little clause gives them a ton of power. Now, you could argue that 10 years of doing something the same way implies it's part of the deal, but honestly, that's a really hard argument to win without it being written down somewhere. Which brings up another really good question. Remember, Victoria renewed over the phone. So, does that verbal agreement actually mean anything? Okay, so yes, verbal agreements do matter legally, but the problem is always proof. It's your word against theirs. If the person on the phone knew the service was changing and didn't tell her, that's a big deal. It's called a material omission. But how do you prove it? This is why, and I can't say this enough, you have to get important stuff in writing. Or if you can, record the call. Just make sure it's legal where you are. All right, what about the whole merger thing? When a new company takes over, do they get to just rip up all the old contracts? The short answer is no, not usually. The new company inherits the old contracts. And what's more, they have an obligation to tell you about any big changes that are going to make the service worse for you. And trust me, getting rid of a key feature you've relied on for 10 years, yeah, that definitely counts as a major detrimental change. So, knowing your rights is step one, but actually doing something about it is the real challenge. Victoria didn't back down, and neither should you. So let's talk about how to fight back when a company just stonewalls you. I like to think of this as an escalation ladder. Step one, you start inside the company. Talk to a supervisor, then their boss. If that goes nowhere, step two is filing an official complaint with a consumer agency. For really big money disputes, step three might be talking to a lawyer, and step four, you can do exactly what Victoria did and reach out to a consumer advocate for help. And that brings us right back to Victoria's story. So after all that back and forth, the flat-out no, the fine print, did she ever get her money back?
Well, she used that escalation letter. She went all the way to step 4 and contacted Christopher Elliott's team. They took a look at everything and went to bat for her, reaching out to the parking spot directly. Suddenly, it wasn't just one customer complaining, it was a professional advocacy group. So here's the $1 million question, or I guess the $912 question. With the pros involved, did the company change its tune?
Yes, she got the refund. The full $912. Having an advocate step in was the key that broke the deadlock. It just goes to show you, sometimes you just need someone with a little more clout in your corner to get a company to do the right thing.
So, what's the big lesson here? I think Victoria herself said it best. Her advice to everyone else is simple: get it in writing or park your money elsewhere. It's a tough lesson, but your loyalty to a company doesn't mean much if it's not backed up by a solid written agreement.
And I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about your day so far. Your phone, that app you used, that online purchase. You probably clicked I agree without a second thought. So what fine print did you just agree to today?